With Thanksgiving fast approaching, some experts are calling the hundreds of thousands of college students traveling across the country for the holidays, quote, little ticking time bombs. According to the New York Times, there have already been more than 250,000 cases across more than 1,600 colleges and universities since the start of the pandemic. For more on this, I'm joined by Dr. Jack Thomas, president of Central State University in Ohio, and Dr. Kavita Patel, physician and MSNBC medical contributor. Dr. Thomas, I want to start with you. It's good to speak to you again. What is the situation as it stands with COVID testing and COVID control, not just at your university, but universities around the state of Ohio?
Thank you so much for having me here. Well, here, particularly at Central State University, we have testing of all of our students. And when they came here, we wanted them to be tested on campus, as well as we had the local health department as well as our National Guard to help us in terms of doing free testing for all students and making it optional also for faculty and staff. However, when you look across the country, you will see that testing is going on. Some of it is making sure that all students are tested, and some are just doing testing as need be. However, when students go home at some institutions, those students are being tested prior to going home, as well as when they come back to the university. And that's basically what we're doing here at Central State University. When students do return, they all will be tested, and we will continue to have the optional testing for faculty and staff as well. And during the first week of class for Central State University, we will all be virtual, and so that we can get the testing done. And if you look across the country, we see that happening at many colleges and universities.
So, Dr. Patel, I'm in one of those universities. I'm faculty at Morgan State University, and we've been virtual all semester. A lot of colleges thought that reopening was a risk, and even coming back from the holidays, especially with so many cases surging across the country. Do you think that colleges in general have handled this well? Are they being given the resources by state governments or the federal government to handle COVID testing, or is too much being put on individual presidents?
Jason, thanks for having me. And simply put, colleges and universities are doing the best they can. Central State, as you heard, is doing probably one of the best kind of what I'll call surveillance strategies, using tests very regularly and probably being really disciplined with the students. If you fall out of the testing rhythm or break the rules, I'm sure there's some real stiff penalties. Having said all that, Jason, nobody is doing enough to support schools, universities, colleges of any kind, no matter how large they are. But in particular, Jason, the smaller, more rural schools, such as Central State, are especially being hit harder and disproportionate to the rest of the country.
Dr. Thomas, look, Governor Mike DeWine of Ohio has warned that a lot of colleges may not even come back in January, depending on how the next few weeks go with the coronavirus. What could be the impact of that on an HBCU like yours? What could be the impact on a lot of small schools across the country if they're forced to stop in-person classes halfway through the school year?
Well, if you have those classes online and not in person, that affects in terms of the general revenue, in terms of room, board, as well, and then some fees that you will not receive as a university. We're very pleased that the CARES Act did help us a great deal in terms of reimbursing our students when it came to the room and board as well, and some fees. I have to say that Governor DeWine has been very supportive of higher education here in the state of Ohio, and we've met with him on a number of occasions, and he did say that the Ohio institutions are doing well when it comes to practicing safety on campus. However, the challenge is when you go off campus, when students go to large gatherings, or when they go to the bars and those kinds of things. But we have prohibited that at Central State University, making sure that when they do go off campus, that they're in small gatherings, because that's when you bring the virus back to the campus and affect other students, as well as faculty and staff. So we've been very diligent about our protocols and processes that we have put in place here at Central State.
So, Dr. Patel, look, I live near a college campus, and you know, herding college, it's like herding cats, right? What are best practices for a university going forward when it comes to dealing with students? Should they have on-campus testing? Should they require the students bring testing back after the holidays? What's the best practices that you've seen, and what are some new practices that could be implemented in this new surge?
Some new practices, as you heard, Central State having a week of virtual kind of after a holiday period. That's one example. Second, to have regular testing. Some universities, Jason, as often as every 3 days, if you can find a way to make testing affordable and scalable at a university level. And then finally, I think it's also reinforcing what testing does. It only tests you in that very moment. So kind of as you heard from the good doctor, anything you do outside of that test, that behavior can also put you and others at risk. So I think it's the education about how this virus is transmitted and what behaviors outside of the testing window can actually promote the spread of the coronavirus. Those are probably the three best examples.
Dr. Thomas, real quick, we're running up against a close here. Scale of 1 to 10, how concerned are you about students coming back after the holidays?
Well, I think like any president, I would say 10. We're concerned because there's an uptick, not just here in Ohio, but there's an uptick with the coronavirus across the nation. And if we do not get a handle on this, then we're going to have some serious challenges when students return back during the spring semester. So I would say a 10.
Gotcha. Dr. Jack Thomas and Dr. Kavita Patel, thank you so much for your time this evening.